Hello everyone, please remember to give a thumbs up on the video. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel, share with your friends, because it all helps to boost the channel and makes it grow on YouTube. So thank you very much. So I have a mystery box which arrived by courier. Well, it's a mystery to you, it's not a mystery to me, I know what's in it. So, here's what we've got. This is a dowel jig. And it comes with the jig itself, some drill bits, some collars for the drills to set the depth, and some dowel marking pins. The other thing I bought was a new tenon saw for cutting out small pieces of timber like this. It's neater than using the rip saw, and just need a miter box for using that. The other thing I bought is just a set of hex Allen keys, and the reason I bought these was quite simple. If the order was less than €50, it was €8.95 to ship it, and if it was over €50, I got the shipping for free. So I got a free packet of hex head Allen wrenches. This tenon saw, because I want to have a means of cutting timber like this neatly and accurately. It's you know, using skill saw or a chop saw is great, but the chop saw that I have is kind of slightly off angle, so it doesn't do a nice neat fit. So something like this is really useful. Now I went to the local car boot sale because I bought this tenon saw and was looking to buy a miter box, because I priced them in the local hardware shop and it was €20 to buy one. So I've seen them before in the car boot sale for something like €3 or €4, something like that. So I figured I'd go down the past Sunday and have a look to see what I could find. So I went down expecting to find one and pay €4 for it, but instead I found something else. I found this, which is a miter saw. So it's a whole saw on a rig, and it has a bed here for cutting the workpiece on. Now it's a little bit used. There's a wee bit of surface rust on it which I'll have to clean off, but I asked them, expecting them to say how much it was, that it would be something like 25 something euros, something like that, because they're over €60 to buy new. But I was pleasantly surprised to be told it was €4. So I said, yeah, I'll buy that. So for €4 I have a new purpose-made miter saw. I'll probably get a miter box for the other one in the future at some point, but I thought it was a deal that was too good to pass up on. So spent a little bit of time cleaning up the surface rust on that. Just on these pieces where the sliders go on, and just needs to be a wee bit freer for actual use of it. But it's still functional as it is now, but I'll just clean it up, just get it back into full working order. So that was great to get for €4, but it doesn't stop there. So with this this project that I'm doing with the boat, I've mentioned before that it's a shoestring, no budget kind of job. So I'm always on the lookout for things that I can use on the boat as part of the refitting process, or in the future using the boat. So with that in mind, I go around the car boot sale looking for things that I think might be useful. And I was pleasantly surprised that last Sunday I also found another deal, which I'll show you now. This chain, I think it's 35 feet of welded galvanized chain. There's a bit of surface rust in places on it, but it's seen very little use. I think that's just because it was left out in the rain or something like that. But it's a really solid chain, and that cost me the princely sum of €20. So I figured at that price I definitely couldn't walk past that. So I bought that as well. So it just goes to show you, if you are doing a sort of budget refit on a boat and you keep your eyes open and you're not pushed to a sort of time frame, that you have to go into a Chandler's or somewhere else to try and buy stuff like chain or whatever. You can find deals if you look out for them. Okay, so that's 3 feet, just marked here. 3, 36, and almost another 3, just short of another 3. So 39 feet for €20. Well, one thing I've realised by taking this dowel kit out of the box is that one of the first things I have to do is find something to put into, because otherwise the bits are all going to get lost. So we need one of these sweet boxes to do that. So these, the drill bits and collets and marker bits are all little tiny bits which are all going to fly everywhere, I'd say. There's 3 different sizes in these little guides, so that's the centre one, which is 5/16. I actually bought some, well, the closest ones here obviously because we're metric here, so 8mm, which is pretty close to 5/16. So that's the 5/16 hole, so you can see it goes through there. They're close enough. I think they'll work fine. Which was a concern I had, because the fact that it's an American tool, I was concerned that the dowels wouldn't work, but at least the 8mm one works perfectly well in the 5/16 hole, so that's good news. Means I don't have to go on eBay to buy dowels for it every time I want to use it. From what I've seen online, the way to do it is to mark through your positions and mark it through on both sides, extend your line through so you can see it when you mount the jig on the piece to line up your positions. So that's what I'm going to try and do here with this piece. And this piece isn't perfectly flat, but it'll do for the purpose of trying it out. So I'm going to mark in, I think just well, I suppose when I'm going to do the actual join in the hatch, I'm going to go with probably the maximum amount of dowels that can fit in there, which is probably going to be 3 dowels. So it's going to be going through this piece here. So I might as well try that now. 19. I have to line up the centre of this V here with the centre of that line, and then tighten up the thumb screw to hold it in place. Oh shit, that's not good. That's not good. Okay, so this is take 2. Because in take 1, I managed to drill straight through the piece of timber and into the little thumb screw tightening thing for the jig, which wasn't good. But there you go. You don't try things, you never learn. So anyway, I figured it out, and you have to set the depth on the collar here to 1 inch is for the spacing of the jig itself and the collar here, to give you a ½ inch penetration into the timber and not go straight through the other side like I did the first time. So here goes take 2. That seems better. It didn't go straight through anyway. I'm not going to do the Companionway hatch first. I'm going to cut out the forward hatch frame and do it first, because it's not just as critical as the companionway hatch. So this will be my confirming that I have it right on this hatch, and then I'll progress on and do the main companionway hatch, because this is the most critical one. This is basically an outer frame to build the hatch on, so I'll do that and use the mouth saw to cut it all out. I bought this doweling jig from General Tools. I bought it online with the hopes that it would do a good job of joining these corners together on the companionway hatch and on the forward hatch. And I've practiced with it and tried to get it to work, and with varying degrees of success. According to what it says online, you're supposed to use 2 opposing holes on the jig to do the end hole into the end piece and the other hole into the face piece. Now that didn't work for me because they didn't line up, and I tried it and I adjusted it, and I ended up having to drill the centre hole on one side and then this end hole on the other side to get them to line up. And it seemed like an awful lot of messing about, an awful lot of trouble. So I went online and looked on the video for this jig on YouTube and watched it, and watched the guy do it, and he used, I used this hole and used the opposite hole and did it all together, and I held it up and showed it at the end of the video, showed, oh yeah, and here's the corner piece, 90-degree corner, and that's how easy it is with the easy jig. And I noticed just at the last seconds he was showing the video, the piece at the end was overhanging, just the same way as mine was. I couldn't get it to square up the corner, it kept overhanging a little bit. And his one was doing exactly the same, but they didn't mention that. So consequently, I didn't adjust for that, didn't leave it so the piece was a bit longer, and then Nolan was going to have to trim it off afterwards to get it to square up. So I spent a lot of time trying to get it to do something that just couldn't do. So if you were doing it and you knew that was going to happen, you could leave that extra little couple of millimetres in the piece that you were joining and then just trim it off afterwards, it'd be no problem. But with the pieces I'm using for making the companionway hatch and the forward hatch, I've already cut them to length, so there's no wiggle room in them at all. So, as I said in the last video, I spoke to my father, who is, the cabinet maker, who can actually do all, fancy joinery and all that stuff, which I don't do. Instead of using a jig, to just drill straight through the end of them, and put the dowel straight through, and have them shown out of the face piece, and just have it as a kind of a feature that you just sand them off, and that'll be it. And of course, by doing that, they're going straight through this piece of timber, so we'll get a much better hold of this, and going into the other piece of timber and get the same hold of that. So that's the way I intend to do it. And I'm going to make up a little jig for doing that myself, just on the bench, to make it a bit easier and more repeatable, that I can do it the same every time without using this jig. This jig, yeah, once you know that you can end up with a little piece over on the end of it, you can work that into your cutting out, and I'm sure it'll work fine. But it's just too much messing about for this, and I don't want to risk damaging the piece of timber that I've already cut out. I've spent hours working on shaping and forming to get them to work on the companionway especially, and mess it up now at this stage. So I'm going to go with this other option, and hopefully it's all going to work out. So that's the Companionway hatch, all drilled and plugged with the dowels together. That turned out good. So it's just a matter of having to glue that together. I'm waiting to get, I want to get some clamps to clamp it that can reach the span across that, which is 600 millimeters. And I'll be able to use the clamps then to clamp that, square it up, glue it together, and the same with the other one as well. And I suppose another question is, was the easy jig that I bought from General Tools worth the 40 euros I spent on it? And the answer to that is no. So I spoke in the last episode about making a mast tabernacle for the boat to raise the pivot point for the mast up, to give me more options with having to drop the mast to go under bridges and stuff like that, because of the low bridges on the waterways here in Ireland, because they're really designed for use with cruiser type boats which don't have masts. So a lot of the bridges are just clearance enough for those boats to go through. So I have these brackets that I got off a job years ago, and I kept them on the purpose of using them for something, either putting up shelves, heavy duty shelves, something like that. But I think I might be able to adapt these to make a mast tabernacle. Now obviously they're a bit overkill, unless it's a 40-foot boat you're having them on the way they are. But I think I can adapt something out of that, and maybe make something that's sort of that for the most part, and then comes down and then at an angle like that to give it a bit more strength. And that will be the side part, and then an opposite mirror one of that to match up. So the actual mast would come into it on this, the straight side will be facing back towards the cockpit, because there's lines coming out here, the halyards coming out here through pulleys at the bottom. So I want the mast to actually sit slightly this way out of the tabernacle for that clearance. But then it has to be wide enough to pivot through, so this has to be wide enough to clear everything, so when it pivots this way, like that. So from this side it would be something like this, coming down and then off at an angle like that, carried through. So I was going to be cutting this piece here out of it. So something like that, sort of and then probably round this off just for the look of it more than anything else. So I think I can make that work. It's a pretty substantial piece of material. This is actually galvanized. So I can use other pieces of galvanize out of this to make the plate for the bottom of it. This piece and a piece out of the other one, maybe to make the plate for the bottom of it, and to make a brace for across the back of it here, just to keep it together. So I think I'll probably get enough out of that. I think I have another one as well that I can get whatever bits I can't get out of these two. So there you go, talking about it, thinking about it, and I've found the bits to do it. So that's probably going to be the next project I'm going to move on to, is just go for it and make this this mast tabernacle. Okay, so that brings us to the end of another episode. If you've enjoyed watching this video, please remember to give me a thumbs up. If you haven't already done so, subscribe, share it with your friends, and I'll see you next time.